I spit Patron on this microphone. Watch out, I'm in the zone. Worth for everything I own. Life is March Madness. One mistake, then you go. Yeah, I had a stroke, but your boy still rhyming. And Fresh got locked, but the squad still wildin'. Catch me in any city in the hood, we grinding.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is, did Errol Spence solidify his status as the top dog in the welterweight division with his victory over Danny Garcia? I'm starting off with Dollar Bill.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. This is an impressive win. He's the first person to decisively beat a Danny Garcia, where nobody can say, okay, this was all Danny's fights have been split decision losses. You know what I'm saying? And to me, they could have won either way. Well, I thought he beat Sean. But with the Keith fight, I thought it was a draw. And I thought that they should have did it again. Nobody beat nobody. Nobody deserved to take nobody's belt. This fight, I believe that Earl beat Danny. He beat Danny Garcia, and he beat him decisively. Earl is prime. He looked like he's back. Listen, we heard about this kid, Earl, before we even seen him throw a punch in the ring, right? And he has lived up to the hype. Long time ago, I've been quoted saying I got Earl for the next 3 years. He scared me a little bit, you know, with his actions and his behavior. But Earl's back on track. He looked phenomenal. He went in there with a 10-pack. You know what I'm saying? I seen him on the scale. The brother had a 10-pack. So I think that, you know, he's focused. He looked really huge in that ring. If he's not the number one welterweight in the world, then who is? And I think that he beats everybody right now at welterweight. If anything, these guys should avoid him and wait for him to go to 154. Because to me, he beats all the welterweights out there, and that's just me.
So are you back with Errol Spence for the next 3 years?
I got Errol Spence for the next 3 years.
All right. G.
Yeah, I'd just like to say what Trill was saying, you know, like how he had the 10-pack. I like to imagine under my fat, I look like Errol Spence too. You feel me? You know?
So, G, what are you saying? What are you saying?
Under the fat is a 6-pack maniac, baby.
It is. All right. Remember that, folks. Under the fat is a 6-pack.
Who could tell me I'm lying? Yes, though. Yeah.
Who's gonna tell you how to feel about you, G?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody can tell you how to feel about you.
Not even my wife. You know what I'm saying? She can look at me like, I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean?
The views and opinions of G do not reflect me, because I don't want the secondhand smoke that might be coming to G. All right, go ahead.
I got my couch right there. Now I'm playing. But yeah, that makes him the head of the division. Reason why is because we seen him in there with elite, slick boxers, you know, Mikey Garcia, Kell Brook. We seen him in there with elite power punchers, Thurman. We seen him in there with elite brawlers, you know, headbutting Sean Porter. And we see him now with an elite counterpuncher, Danny Garcia. He's beat all of those gentlemen. So to me, like, the only person you could probably even entertain is TC. But TC hasn't fought those gentlemen. You know what I mean? What we do know is the guy that's fought the elite competition within the welterweight division is Spence, and he's still undefeated. So therefore, of course, he's on top.
Ned?
Yeah, he's on top. He's numero uno right now. And him coming back, his comeback, he put everybody on notice. This is his spot. This is his division. And what was it? When you saw TC at the fight yesterday, the crowd was booing him. So, you know, that lets you know.
Bro, it's Dallas, Texas. Errol Spence.
That lets you know. That lets you know. You in the wrong neck of the woods.
They booed Errol Spence in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hey, man,
they booed Spence. They booed him.
You're right. It was hometown advantage. But, you know, Errol Spence touched down yesterday, and, you know, he put everybody on notice. So, to me, he was already number one in that division, and that just solidified it for me with his performance yesterday. So, yeah.
So, for me, I think yes. I don't if you look at every other sport, with the exception of boxing for some reason, but it doesn't make no sense that boxing would be the exception to this rule. People look at strength of schedule. Strength of schedule. So, for example, in the NFL, in college football, in college basketball, they look at your record, but they also take into consideration the strength of your opponent. How good was your opponent that you beat, right? So when it comes to the last slots for the playoffs, they look at a team that has one loss, but the team that has one loss lost to one of the top 3 teams in their sport. And then there's an undefeated team with a better looking record on paper, but when you break down the strength of their schedule, they never played a team that was in the top 25. Meanwhile, the team with the one loss has victories over teams in the top 5, and they only have one loss to a team in the top 3. Which team is the better team? The strength of schedule shows you the team that beat a top 5 team and only lost to a team in the top 3 would be the better team. Now, the team that didn't play anyone's going to argue, but we're undefeated. Well, why didn't you schedule a team that would prove how good you are? So you want us to give you a slot over a proven commodity, the team with a victory over top 5 opponent, because you beat all the teams that were under the top 25. Doesn't work that way. Strength of schedule matters. Quality of opponent matters. And when we're talking boxing, only in boxing does someone with an O get more respect than someone with a better resume, who's fought quality opponents, who has a tougher strength of schedule. So let's say hypothetically, we're rating the opponents that Errol Spence has fought and beaten, and we're comparing them to anyone else in the welterweight division. Another thing that doesn't happen is, Golden State won the championship, like 2018, 2016, I don't remember, but Golden State won the championship a few years ago. They won the lottery this year. They were picking first because they had one of the worst teams in the league. So someone beats Golden State now, they don't get to say, I beat the team that beat LeBron. I beat this team when they were champions. No, it's what have you done for me lately? You don't live off your rep from years ago. So when you look at Errol Spence, he's beaten the quality opponents who've been fresher and been in their prime most recently, more so than anyone else. He's been in there with Brook. He's been in there with Mikey Garcia, who was on the pound-for-pound list that they were hyping up as being this guy who can beat him. Remember, he never said, Mikey called him out, and there were people like, yeah, we want to see that fight. So what do you want Earl to do? He took the fight, it made money, and he won. He beat Showtime Sean Porter. He beat Danny Garcia. But he beat Showtime Sean Porter when he was a champion. He beat Showtime Sean Porter to collect a belt. You're going to get mad at a champion for beating another champion? Where they do that at? He's not living off of what Sean Porter accomplishes. He beat Sean Porter when he had a title. And you look at Danny Garcia and his strength of schedule. Danny Garcia's been in there with Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, and Errol Spence. He took 3 L's to quality opponents. And even in those losses, he showed that he's a hell of a fighter for the way he performed against them. You don't think that Danny Garcia can beat Mean Machine? You don't think he can beat Kavaliauskas? You don't think that Danny Garcia would have beaten Jeff Horn for that title that he didn't even really win? You don't think that? So, like, when you look at strength of schedule, you have to take that into consideration. Even if you think that one fighter is more talented than the other, what does the objective stats say? What does the strength of schedule say? And then you wrote, oh, this person's ducking this person. We've heard this duck game for years. Even in the Wilder camp, they were saying Joshua was ducking. We had these arguments, and then later on, Wilder himself admits he could have got more money to fight Joshua. But even in Wilder not accepting the contract to fight Joshua, doesn't mean he was ducking. He was trying to get 50-50. He was trying to get 50-50, and his plan didn't work. But everyone was jumping on it, hopping on it. So what I would say is this. Errol Spence is #1 welterweight by objective standards. Unified. Better strength of schedule. Better quality of opponents. Better performances. And yes, I say better performances. 3 pay-per-view fights in a row. And we're going to see what the pay-per-view numbers do for this fight. And if they're good, that makes 60-40 even more of a deal for TC, because TC even showed up to Errol Spence fight, which I credit TC for, because I'm happy he was there. Hopefully he met with Al Heyman and some other people, and hopefully they're working on making that fight happen. So that was a beautiful thing. But he also got to see how they're doing it in the PBC world, where these welterweights are bringing them in. People are watching. He got to see what their shows are like. And so Earl's #1 until someone knocks him off, and that's it.
Please like and subscribe. Let us know how you feel in the comment section.
Hold on, real quick. I did misspoke. I did say Thurman. That was a misspoke. You know what I mean? Kaden just reminded me. So my bad. You know what I mean? But yeah, continue.
Thurman on what? What are you talking about?
Oh, no, I mentioned Thurman.
He mentioned Thurman as one of Spence's fighters.
I messed that up. They never fought, but you know what I mean?
You did remind me of something, though. The one common denominator against all the best fighters in the welterweight division is Showtime Sean Porter. So keep that in mind for later. They've all fought Showtime Sean Porter. So keep that in mind.
Please like and subscribe. Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Also, check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.
We could have been flawless, flying up to make people's mouths drop jawless. How can 2 years be erased in 1 August? And you know I have my pride, so I had to get brolic. All in all, I can't call it. Just know you're my queen. Wish I was denim, cause then I be in your jeans. Can't fight fate, and you've been loving me since your teens. But when you can't move forward, you gotta wipe your slate clean.